Robbie, how are you doing?
Good, Joe. Good. It's a difficult time at the moment. Obviously, there's no contact with the players. There's no football, but we've just got to do it. It's important we get through this period and everyone stays safe, and hopefully we can get back to our normal ways in the football as soon as possible, mate.
Before I go on to asking you about the football, everything good at home? Family all staying safe?
Yeah, all good. Yeah, the family's good. The kids are obviously homeschooling, so they're doing that at the moment, and then just try to crack on with a little bit of work. Starting to get prepared for next season when it comes, and also hopefully see out the rest of this season. When we get told we get the green light, we can push on.
Yeah. If we can go back to when the situation first, arose, as a club, I think we were proactive in putting players in isolation. But could you go into more detail about the sequence of events?
Yeah, look, obviously there was things that we knew about in the background that was going on, in the news and things like that. But we were preparing. I think it was the Morton game we were preparing for on the Friday. Everything was as normal, expecting to travel down there on the Saturday, out training the Friday, and then as we came in, we started to hear a couple of players were talking about games getting cancelled and things like that. So we came in and right away spoke to Tony Ashgar, and Tony said that the SFA had put out that the games would be cancelled for the weekend. So it was just the uncertainty of it all. We didn't really know what was going on. The game was off. We brought the boys back in on the Monday, trained them on the Monday and the Tuesday, and then we made a decision early as a club that we would just send them away and put them on kind of a bit of rest period at the moment, just until we knew what was going on. And then obviously there was the lockdown the following week. So it was the right decision. Just to say, it's a bit of the unknown, it's the uncertainty, but always the hardest part for everyone, because I think if we knew when we were going to come back, then we could start put some programmes together, but we just don't know at the moment.
I can imagine that your role from the role of head coach has changed significantly from being on the training ground every day to what you're able to do up to the point of furlough and even beyond that.
Yeah, well, it's obviously been totally different. Usually your day to day, you're speaking to the players, you're speaking to the staff, you're interacting with them, around about the training ground, or put the dining room and stuff like that, or on the pitch. So it's been different. We've tried to escalate our communication with them, but more just having a chat, really. Nothing really speaking about anything specific, just really communicating, try to keep them happy, try to keep any issues that they might have that flag up, just more a social side of it, I think, because that's probably the hardest bit for us all. We go from being in an environment where we've got all the boys there, or staff there, 50, 60 people talking, interacting, to having to stay in the house. So it can be difficult. So it's definitely made us increase the communication side of it through what would be WhatsApp, Zoom, on the phone and things like that. So that, to be fair, that's been a benefit of it. I think when we do get back, we'll try and continue that.
And I would imagine as well, it's been very important that you've got the support network behind you, all the people at the club that are in support of you across the football side, very important at this time.
Yeah, it's important for everyone. I think it's that communication again. You do feel a bit isolated, and I'm sure everyone does. Or the fans out there, it is quite isolating. You're in the house, just a family, or on your own at times as well, which some of our players are. It can be very difficult. So you get the support of Tony Ashgar, obviously Mal, Derek, all these guys. The chairman's been fantastic as well. Sent over a couple of messages for the staff and the players as well. So I think it's important everyone comes together, and tries to help each other out, whether that be in the football side or the social side as well. So that reiterates into the community as well. I think it's this period has shown us that it's important to look after people and make sure that we communicate and make sure people are fine.
You mentioned the chairman there. Listen, you've spoke many times about the support that he's given you from the time he came in. But again, at a time like this, I would imagine, hearing from the chairman, hearing his passion for what's going to come in the future is a massive boost to yourself and everyone.
Yeah, look, the chairman's been great since the day he came in, and I think that situations like this, the unknown of everything, it's so important that you have strong leadership from above, and we've certainly got that from the chairman. He's invested heavily in this football club, and the objective is still, as it has always been, is to get the team into the Premier League, into the top flight, and that's not changed at all, even with this current situation. That's the sole focus for us, is to get in the league, but ultimately we have to make sure everyone's safe. Have to make sure that we're focusing on that at the moment, but once football starts again, it'll be business as usual for us.
When you talk about the support staff around you, in particular, very closely. You work obviously with your two assistant head coaches, Lee and Gordon. There's a fascinating story, regarding how you chose the guys to be your assistants, and how that all came about. It's not the usual football story of somebody getting two mates in. So what was the thinking behind the choice of they two as your assistants?
When I came back up from MK, and obviously I was coming into United, and I decided I was going to make some changes in the coaching staff. I didn't want to go down the route of bringing in your friends or whatever, and it just becomes an old pals act kind of thing. I felt that it's important that you bring guys in that can complement what you can do. There's areas that I feel comfortable in, there's areas I don't feel comfortable in. So Lee and Gordon can cover these areas. But initially, when I brought Gordon in, I actually was interviewing someone else, and the guy that put me in contact with this other coach said to speak to Gordon. So I obviously did a wee bit of background checks on him. He's got a great CV. I worked with SFA and the education side of it, and then went to New Zealand, worked with the Olympic team there as well. So went to the London Olympics with their football team. Went over to Vancouver, set up the whole youth setup there, then became assistant manager for 7 years, I think Gordon was there. So, it was a great CV, and then when I actually spoke to him within a couple of minutes, I'd made my mind up, and it was a case of me trying to sell it to him to come in. So he's been great since day one, great on the training ground, great detail, works extremely hard. And then we decided that I was going to bring another assistant in to try and help as well, just to cover a few different aspects. So I didn't know Lee. Obviously I knew of him for his background in football, but again, somebody put me in touch with him. I spoke to him. Lee initially came in a couple of days a week, and everyone seemed to get on very well. I was really pleased with the way Lee came in. He's very he's great on the training ground. He's got great enthusiasm. He's got good detail. He's also he's been in a manager's position before, which he understands the different aspects of it, the pressures of it. So he's really good at taking things off my back as well. Things that maybe I don't need to deal with, he can deal with because he's been in that situation before. So the two of them really complement each other, and also they got on really, really well with the rest of the staff, which is great.
There's a big thing at the club, about personal development as much as the growth of the club. And when I look at the three of you as a small group of head coach and assistant head coaches, is it very much a case that you three are thriving off each other and learning from each other's abilities, personalities?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Like the further education is a big part of the club for all the coaches. Self-improvement. So Tony Ashgar's been very, very strong on that. And tried to push it as much as you can. Even in these moments just now, the guys are trying to learn different things. They're on watching different webinars and seminars and things like that just to develop. So, Gordon has aspects that he's really good at that we learn off. Lee's the same. So both of them. Lee's just finished the Masters in Sport and Directorship. Gordon's looking to go into one in the summer as well, a different course and more of a coaching course. So it's. I always think the players, we want them to try and improve, so it's important that the coaching staff have that belief as well. You don't want to be doing the same thing you were doing 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Now we see some great coaches. I've known some great coaches that 15, 20 years ago were cutting edge, doing the right things. Everyone was looking at them, and then at this point, 5, 10 years down the line, everyone's passed them by. So it's really important that we keep progressing, as the players are progressing as well. The younger ones that come through, they're all into social media. It's different ways of learning. They're on laptops, analysis or these kind of things. So they expect that. So it's important that the coaches develop that side of it as well, so they can give the players what they need.
You're still a relatively young man. You're a relatively young manager in the sense. I think we're talking 6-7 years you've been a manager, but football's changed so much in that time. And some of these things you're talking about, the support network we're talking about around you, even in that relatively short time, there's been so many changes in football.
Football's evolving all the time. Teams are getting bigger, clubs are getting bigger. You look at 20 years ago, it was a local businessman made good who took over the club. The manager ran everything, everything that went on, the whole youth setup, the scouting setup, the commercial, everything was run by the manager. He had the final say in it all. And I think as clubs have got bigger and they started to evolve, there's different aspects that as a manager you can't control. Your sole job nowadays is to make sure the first team win and try and get them in the best possible shape you can for a Saturday. So your focus has to be on that. Also, you know, the way managers are nowadays, and the nature of the beast is that you're maybe only going to be there for 3, 4, 5 years at a push, you know. So I think clubs have to have separate people looking after separate departments, so that if things do change, it's not going to be a whole wide scale change in the culture of the club. But yes, you know, I believe it's the way forward. I believe, you know, having heads of departments is so important, you know, because they can take sole responsibility for these areas, and then it allows the coaches and myself to be freed up to focus on, you know, producing on a Saturday.
What does that mean then for you? If you talk about philosophies of a, you know, a manager, a head coach, undoubtedly, you know, we can get into the ins and outs of the word philosophy, but your philosophy will have changed in the 6, 7 years. But with the support network around you now and the different aspects to the job, has your vision of what you want to do as a manager or head coach changed?
I think ultimately you want to develop football players and you want to win football matches. You know, that's the key. You know, people can talk about philosophies and doing this and doing that, but ultimately I always say that, you know, I need to stand there on a Saturday and watch it. So in the pouring rain at times, so you want it to be entertaining, you want it to be energetic, you want to try and improve people and put smiles on people's faces as well. So that for me is a philosophy. You know, it doesn't matter whether you want to be possession based or counter attack based. It's about winning football matches and developing people and making it entertaining. So, you know, it's very few managers in the world, I believe, can have a real philosophy, because you have to utilise the players you've got within your squad. You know, if you have a philosophy, then you have to then go and buy players to implement that philosophy. Very few managers can do that. It's maybe the 2 or 3 at the top can afford to go and pay X amount of money to get the exact players they need. So every other manager's really trying to make the best they can of what they've got. And that means you sometimes need to play one way, you might need to play another way, a different time. But ultimately it's about trying to win, trying to improve people and try to entertain the fans. And if you can do that, then that's your philosophy.
I think it's an interesting point, that, because, you know, you've had the opportunity to build the squad, you know, albeit, you know, in the transfer windows you've had the opportunity, quite a lot of work has been done. But a lot of the players, when you talk about, you know, that a lot of the players that you brought in seem to be of an attacking mindset. The majority of them. Is that you working out where you are or where the club is at the moment, or is that, again, this, what you call it, philosophy or mindset coming into it?
I think Dundee United in the Championship, you're expecting to win every game, you're expecting to score goals, you know, so you have to have attacking options. And I think that, you know, one of the key things for us in the summer was bringing in a goal scorer, because I thought last season we created quite a number of chances, but we just weren't, you know, getting that final moment at times. So, you know, obviously Lawrence coming in was a massive coup for us. You know, we worked extremely hard, and Tony Ashgar worked so hard, and the chairman invested heavily to bring him in. So you get that, and then, you know, I also look at, when I first came in, what did Dundee, what's historically what the Dundee United fans want? You know, they want, you know, they want hard work, they want young players coming through. That's been the philosophy, really. You know, so you look at your hard working guys like your Neris, your Malpasses, your Hegartys, who stayed there for a long, long time, you know, who were the core of the club, extremely hard working guys, you know, up for the battle every week. Or you had the younger ones that came in, you had Duncan Fergusons and guys like that, McKinleys that would come in and move on, you know, these young kids. So I think it's important we try and get back to that and merge that. So we decided to bring in our Butchers and our Conleys and our Reynolds, who can be the real core of the team, you know, the men in the team, and then that gives a platform for your Pearys to come in, your Robsons to come in, your Glass, your Mockeries, and even Shanklins to an extent, these younger ones that can bring that energy and, you know, their life to the team.
You talked about and used the example there of Louis Appere. Now, Louis was somebody who, you know, and the story's quite commonly out there, but he was in junior football on loan last season, and then almost, you know, it looked like he came from no place and just burst on the first team scene. What's the progress that you put into somebody like Louis? Are you trying to basically hold him back and protect him? Or when you've got somebody that just bursts on the scene like that, do you just let them run with it?
I think Louis is a great example of, you know, a young player who went away over the summer and worked really hard, looked after himself. When he came back into pre-season, he took his opportunity. You know, I always say to all the young players at the end of the season, we have a meeting, we'll sit down individually and we'll say, this is an opportunity for you to get in the first team, because there's always one or two that will go away and they'll work extremely hard, they'll come back really fit, and they get back in. Everyone comes together at the start of pre-season. So first couple of days of pre-season, we'll be training with like 45, 50 players, because we just mix the whole squads. Then we go and play some games, and we'll generally play, if we don't play 2 games in a day, we'll play back-to-back games. So we need, 22, 30 players at times. So these guys will play, these games, will get opportunities. So if they come back really fit and at it, they get the opportunity. And Louis did that. Louis, first day of pre-season, he came in and he was flying. He was ahead of everyone else. First couple of bounce games we had within the training session, he was taking people on. He was really positive. He was showing his pace and his power. So right away we thought, this is a guy that needs to be given an opportunity. We put him in the pre-season games, did great again, scored some goals, and then he's kicked on from there, scoring goals in the derby. So you can see that he's went from, playing in junior football and doing really well to probably 3-4 months later scoring goals in the derby, and he's now get called up into the Scotland under 21 scene. So he's a great example to our young players, and even this period that they've got just now, where we're not playing, we're not training. These young guys should be looking after themselves so that they can get an opportunity when they come back in to try and get in the team.
And then when you look further up the food chain, the experienced guys, etc., that you spoke about earlier, Mark Connolly's, Callum Butcher, I think most of the guys have moved their family, almost lock, stock and barrel into the local area. And they seem to be in obviously the skipper as well, Mark Reynolds. All these families, young kids, and they've brought them into the Dundee, the city of Dundee or the surrounding areas, and they seem to be really embracing everything about the club, including the culture of the city.
Yeah, look, when I initially came in, I think the previous owner had stipulated that you had to come in within a certain area to come and live in, which is a great idea. But I felt at the time, you're kind of forcing people to come. It's important that they want to come, and it's a natural thing. So when we recruited, we brought in some experienced players, but we also wanted the continuity. When you look at a lot of the other teams in Scotland, it's every summer they're changing 15, 20 players. So if you're giving guys a 6-month contract or a 1-year contract, and they've got young families, they're not going to move them. So we decided to give the core players a longer contracts, to give them a bit of security, but also we can build the club round about them. And by doing that, they then bring their family up. They start to get settled. They start to see the culture of the city. They understand the ins and outs of it. Also, they're visible to the fans. There's a lot of the players we've got that have got young kids that are at school, or their wives or girlfriends work within the city. So you start to intermingle. But it was all a natural thing. Tony and I spoke about it. About we can't force people to come. As soon as you force people to come and stay, at times they don't want to come and do it. But it's just a natural process. So I think just about all the players have moved up now. Even Lawrence is up there. Jamie Robson's up there, Paul Watson's up, Paul, so they then start to build a togetherness, because the boys start to socialise together, they go to the gym together, they go running together, their wives start to socialise, and it all builds. You look back at the Dundee United team in the mid-80s, they all stayed locally, the families all, interacted with each other, they all socialised together, and it just builds a togetherness. So I think the big part of it was not forcing players to come, hoping it would come naturally, and then giving them longer contracts so they get that security. So it was, Tony and I spoke about it, and I think hopefully it's working well.
That relationship between yourself and Tony, it stands to reason that that has to be a strong relationship. But when you listen to what Tony says and his ethos, and listening to you here, there's very much an aligned ethos that both of you have with where you want to take this club and how you want to do it. Yeah,
I think, in my opinion, it's one of the most important relationships in a football club is the head coach and the sporting director. Because the sporting director will have a relationship with the chairman, but generally, the chairman's not there day to day. But the head coach and the sporting director are speaking daily, contacting daily as well, running about the training ground, matches and things like that. So that relationship's got to be really strong. We've also got to be heading the same direction. In the right direction together, and I've known Tony for a number of years when he, from his previous role as an agent, and then when he did when he had his travel company for the pre-season tours, I worked with him as well. I knew him when he was doing his sporting directorship stuff as well. So we've built that relationship over a number of years, and obviously when he came in, we continued that. But we both know that how far this club can go. You know, we both know the history that's there, but also the potential. You know, and we just want to try and help the club get there.
When you look at the season to the point we are at now, Robbie, 14 points clear, the top since day one, and the start. We look back at that where we are, and you look back at the start of the season, and home wins against Inverness, away wins at Partick, Dunfermline, followed by a derby. Here suddenly, I guess, was that the time when you looked and thought something special's happening here, or we've got something in place here?
I think that for me, the first couple of games, your first home game is so important to win that. You know, we did that against Inverness. You know, and then the first away games are extremely important as well. If you can win those first two games, the first home, first away, the home game sets the home fans up. They come their numbers, they see a team winning, and then you go away from home. That's a question that everyone asks. You know, they'll look at the start of this season. People are looking at Dundee and Dundee United. How are they going to fare? They're going to be two teams that are going to be up the top of the league. You would expect. So we knew that to win the first home game, set the tone. To win the first away game, showed everyone that we meant business. And then when you go into that first derby match as well, it's so important that you get a result in that. And we managed to do that because that then puts you in the, gives that confidence boost, puts you in the front foot for the rest of the season. So those 3 games for me were really important. Those were the games that, to be fair to the players, they stood up to it and they got us a result. And then we've managed to kick on from there. And the objective at the start of the season was to win the league. You want to be at the top of the league for the whole season. So far we've managed to do that.
I guess just the nature of football, there's extreme highs and extreme lows. Defeats are seen as devastating things. Victories, take people to a high that they don't normally experience. Your role in all of that, are you the straight guy that has to just keep everybody sensible and relaxed?
I always go back to that. We play football to enjoy it, don't we? That's the reason that when you pick up a ball as a kid and you go and play, it's to enjoy it. So ultimately it's a game. It's an important game. It's one that every Saturday, your weekend can be fantastic if we get a result, or ruined if you don't. But there also has to be that bigger picture and say, right, enjoy it. Let's enjoy football. Let's enjoy, try to get a result. The players should go out on the pitch on a Saturday, enjoying what they're doing. They should train and enjoy it as well. And we're going to lose games. We're going to win games. But we understand that. That's the nature of football. Every Saturday, every manager and every fan and every player in the world expects to win. But it's not going to be like that at times. So it's important that we don't, especially me and the players and people within the club, don't get too carried away when we win, but also don't get too carried away when we get beat. Because we know there's, at times football, there can be things happening in a game that you just can't control. So you can build up all week. You can do all the work. Players are looking great, and the warm-up, everything's great. The game starts, and it just doesn't happen. But that's part of football. That's one of the reasons we love it. If it wasn't like that, if the best team won every week, then people want to compete. Would there be no point in doing it? So there's times where you have to look at the bigger picture. But ultimately, always go back to me is it's a game. We're here to enjoy it. Entertain, run about, enjoy the social side of it as well as players, and hopefully you'll win off the back of it.
When we went on the run, I think between the second and third segments of the season, fantastic run, winning pretty much every week. How difficult is it for you as a manager in that situation to just play it down and just keep focusing on the next game?
It's the easiest time in the world, Joe. You don't need to do too much, just keep them ticking over. But it's I think when at the start of the season, I don't know about you guys, but I expected to win every game. I'm going to a championship season with the players we've got in the team. I expect to win every week. So it's if we go and win a game, then for me it's keeping calm and going, right, great, well done. This is the good stuff. This is the bad stuff. Let's try and make sure we're ready for next week. So. The players were great, to be honest. There was no getting carried away. We would win a game, great, quick celebration after the game. Everyone's happy. We'll have a quick chat. It's done and dusted. Let's focus on the next one. And I think that's been the key for us this season, is that when we win games, there's no overreaction or over celebration. It's just focus on the next one. And we lost games. It was a case of, right, let's learn from it and move on as quick as we can so we're ready for the next one. And you're never going to go through a season winning every game. You're never going to go through a season, losing every game. Well, you would hope not to anyway, But so it's important that you keep a kind of calmness and don't, get too high or too low on it.
There's obviously the public face that you have to put on. We've got the PR, or when you speak to the press after, not keeping things high and low, but you must be like everyone in the sense that on a Saturday night, a victory, if it's a glass of wine or whatever, you're going to have to taste a wee bit better. If it's a defeat, it doesn't taste as good.
Definitely. It's we're like anyone. You want the team to win. Every manager, every coach wants the team to win. Every player wants the team to win. So you have that. It's nothing better than coming home on a Saturday night and you get 3 points. Everything tastes better and everything feels better. But on the other side of it, at times, if you lose a game, it's important that you reflect on it but you don't get too down on it, because ultimately the job of the manager is to pick the players back up again on a Monday morning, come in and get going again. So there's been some great results this season, and there's some great Saturday nights and enjoying it, and weekends. I'm sure the fans are the same. But there's also times when you just need to crack on with it.
Are you, as a manager, a head coach, are you the type who, could you switch off from football? Could you get away from it and go and enjoy family time, or are you someone that there's always stuff in the back of the head and you're always thinking of the next game?
I think that for me, that's probably the hardest part of being a head coach or manager, is that it's trying to switch off from it. I find it quite hard. Sometimes I feel that when you, even if we're sitting watching a movie or something, and I keep flicking back to what we're going to be doing the next day, or what we maybe played in the last game, or things like that. And at times also you can feel a wee bit guilty if you do switch off, because you go, that's time wasted when I should be working on this. So the hardest bit I've found as being a manager is that balance between the two. It can be tough, because that every week or every Tuesday or every Saturday that you're getting judged, your team's getting judged, and it's important that you work as hard as you can to make sure you give the players the best opportunity to go and show what they can do. So I think that for me that's always been the hardest bit, is being able to switch off from it. Am I getting better at it? I don't really know. You'd probably need to ask my missus, but I think that was touched on earlier. Trying to educate yourself out with football. So I'm doing this master's degree as well, which has been great, because it takes you a wee bit out of the bubble, which at times you can get caught up in. You start the season, we come back in like June. Next thing you know, it's February. And it's the season just goes like that. And you look back and you go, have we done this or have we done that? So it's hard to come out the bubble, but it's something that I think as a manager you really need to try and do it and keep working at it.
I look at your relationship with the referees, and it immediately makes me wonder what sort of student you are.
I actually got on all right with the referees. Let's see, when you're out in that touchline, at times it can be, I wouldn't say a show, but you have to try and influence the referees. You have to try and influence decisions for the team, because ultimately, we're there to win. We're there to try and get 3 points. So if you can speak to a fourth official or a linesman or a referee, at times it can influence the decisions that then come. So, but after it's done, once the game's done, it's done and dusted. I speak to a number of referees, over the years and in the past, and we bump into them. We've always got a good relationship. I think, for me, what happens on the pitch and the touchline, that's done and dusted. It's a separate thing. It's the same with managers. You have set twos, things will get said, because everyone's competitive, everyone wants to win. But once it's done, you move on, and you talk after it.
It's an interesting point, that one, because as you say, we can all, football fans always see, what goes on in dugouts, and occasionally, as you say, there's bits and pieces going across dugouts, but there's always this almost unwritten rule that managers go in afterwards and have a wee chat and a cup of tea, or another beverage together before they go away. Is that a part of the job that you've just said there, that after 90 minutes the game's gone, but is that a part of the job that you enjoy, or you accept, or you look forward to?
I think it's all the managers that I've played against or coached against, they understand the pressures that you're under. The team goes out on a Saturday, both teams are expected to win. No matter if you're top of the league or bottom of the league, you're expected to win. So there's a pressure there. So at times people can react differently to the pressure. They'll maybe say something that they don't really mean because of the pressure or what's happening in the game and intensity of the game. And at other times, I've been guilty of that as well at times, and as long as after the game you say, look, hands up, what I should have said, or apologise, this or that, then for me it's done and dusted. And to be honest, 99% of the managers are like that. They all understand, it's a high pressure job you're in, they're expected to win, and it's just the nature of the beast. And I think the best ones are the ones that can go in between it like that, even within the game. You meet some of the top managers, they can be really intense 1 minute and then next minute it's changed, and it's how the game flows, whereas you get some managers who, as soon as they go, and that's them done for the whole game, and you can see it sometimes as well.
We'll go back to this season and the situation we're in at the moment. As I say, 14 points clear. You must be delighted with how the season has gone up to this point.
Yeah, look, it's been great. It's been great. The players have been great. The fans as well have been fantastic. Followed us in our numbers. I think that's been massive for us. I think when you're going for a title, everyone has to be together. It's so important. You won't win a title solely with the players. You won't win a title solely with the fans. You won't win it solely just with the club or the staff, or whatever. It's so important that everyone's together. And winning football matches brings that togetherness. But also, when you have a tough period, everyone sticking together brings success. And I think the clubs I've been at that have been successful, it's always been togetherness has been the biggest thing. The fans, the players, the staff, everyone together is so important. I think we've got that at Dundee United. It's the most important thing for me is try to nurture that and try to keep it as long as we can, because there will be highs and lows, the ups and downs, but as long as we get that togetherness. And yeah, there are times when we're disappointed and times when we're angry about this and maybe annoyed about that, but ultimately it's about the team, the club, the team, the fans, everyone being together. And if you can do that and you keep that strong, you can do it in football.
And I guess in these times, with social media being very very popular with lots of players, coaches, the media side herself, that support network that we touched on earlier, that goes beyond just you and the coaches, goes right through. There's a lot of other factors nowadays that clubs are addressing with players. The psychological aspect of the impact of social media and all this. So there's a really strong network there, isn't there? When you talk about this United together, it's a really strong network that's behind you.
Yeah, there's a great network behind us. Tony's been great putting that together. We've got a number of external experts that help us as well, that come in maybe a couple of days a week, or even just on the phone or on Zoom calls that we can speak to. We've actually just brought in Dr. Jill Cook, who's a sports psychologist she's actually a Dundee United fan from Dundee, but she works down in Liverpool. So she's been good for this period just now, just to talk to, how do we deal with the players, what do we say to the players, because this is an unprecedented, kind of time that we're in at the moment, so we need as much information and expertise as we can to try and help the players through it. So again, that's great support. We've also got Dan Purnell's started as well. He's doing some external work for us as well, more for the coach ed, for the coaching staff, giving them things to watch, webinars, courses to go on, which has been great at this point as well, just to keep people active, my mind's active. And then we brought in Rylan Morgan as well, who again an external expert that's coming at the front up the performance side of things for us, so bringing the medical and the sports science together. So he's been great in this period. He's been obviously difficult to do it with the players, but what he's done is he's brought that group together, that the departments, and then try and move things forward. So there's loads of support in the background. We're using this opportunity just now just to try and streamline it, so when we come back we hit the ground running, because I think when the football does start, it'll be like gung-ho, it'll be 100 mile an hour, it will be Saturday, Tuesday, it might even be like Saturday, Monday, Thursday, you just don't know. So it's important that, we're ready to go and ready to kick on.
So I guess that must be a concern of yours, and amongst all the other concerns we've got with the situation just now, but at some point they're going to say, right, we're going back to football now. You'll have to get your squad ready, match fit for that time. So I imagine that'll be a big concern in this unknown world at the moment.
Yeah, it's uncertainty. I think everyone, coaches, the players, the fans as well. We just don't know what's going to be happening. But I think it's going to be a great opportunity. I'm really looking forward to getting the boys back in. And I don't know for sure, but I think we'll probably get a 2-week window where we can do a quick pre-season, and then we'll go straight into games. And once we play these games, what will happen with the following season, I don't know. Will there be a break? Will we go straight into it? Will we shorten it? Nobody knows. But it's going to be exciting, that's for sure, because the football is going to come thick and fast, and I think everyone's desperate to get back into it again. It's going to be good. So, we hope that the players are looking after themselves. I'm sure they will when they're away, and they're staying in their houses and working out and getting out for their hours exercise. So, they understand the magnitude of the situation about, having to stay in and isolation, social isolation, and the distancing and that. But they're young guys who I'm sure will be keeping fit as well, and understanding the importance of the club getting promoted. So these 8 games when we come back are so important for us. The players understand that.
You touched on there, the gung-ho nature of these games when we come back. When you look at the season up to this point, we scored a lot of goals this season. We scored a lot of goals, but perhaps the majority of them were scored, right up to the end of that successful run. And in recent games, goals have been harder to come by. And I noticed you were quoted as talking about, the fact that teams are now shutting up shop a bit more. So what was the point you were trying to make, other than the fact they're shutting up shop?
I think it's, it's very difficult to go through a season and scoring like 4 or 5 goals every game. What happens is you at the start of the season, everyone's going for wins, and nobody really knows each other. Then, there's a bit of uncertainty between the teams, as in, you don't know what the players are like, what the systems are like. I think when you play in such a 10-team league, by the time you played each other the third, possibly the 4th time, everyone kind of knows each other. And I felt, the last kind of month or 2, teams were coming in just right for the first minute. They'd be happy to take a point, happy not to get turned over. So it makes it more difficult to break down. Whereas at the start of the season, there's like the energy levels are there, and we score goals. Teams, as soon as you get that first goal, teams have to open up. Then you can then pick them off in different areas and things like that. But the last few games we've had, teams are coming and sitting. It's like 2 banks of 5. It can be very difficult to break down. It's up to them. Ultimately, when you're top of the league, you've got to find ways to break them down. But I just felt we didn't have that wee spark at times. But I hope that when the season kicks off again, teams have to win games. You have to go on runs. You're looking at teams that are down at the bottom of the league, and if they've got 8 games to go, they have to get at it. Teams up near the top of the league have to try and get into the playoffs. So everyone's going to be more gung-ho. It's going to be games, and we would hope that we'll get back to that more open, expansive games that we can play in and go and exploit as well. So it's part of, it was the same when I was at Hearts. We get promoted, towards the end of the season, teams come and shut up shop, and it's difficult, and the expectation levels are that you're going to go and score 5, 6 goals. And it just doesn't happen at that times. It's sometimes you've got to be patient. You have to at times make sure you don't lose the first goal, which we've lost a couple of times from whether it be individual errors or whether it be good play for the opposition. That makes it doubly hard. So there's a lot of learning from it. A lot of learning to do from these situations. And hopefully next season we go to top flight. We're in the same position. That'd be no bad if we're sitting 14 clear with 8 to go.
When you look at the club has been building towards getting into the Premiership, and everything I think about the club has been designed towards being very much atop of the Premiership. The fact the academy, got the elite status, starting in January there, everything seems to be in a very positive mindset. What sort of impact, or what kind of impact do you have on that relationship with the academy and then coming through into the first team?
Yeah, I think I touched on it earlier. The one of the key things about Dundee United over the number of years has been promoting young players and giving them an opportunity. Bringing that energy and a platform to go and play. So, the club's achieved elite status, which is fantastic in such a short period of time. We've got some really good young players coming through. Guys that are going to be coming in the summer full time, but also guys like your Mockreys and your Neilsons, the Fotheringhams, guys like that who are round about the first team now. So it's important that they get a platform to play. They get an opportunity. They get a pathway, because if they do that, it gives incentive to the younger ones that are coming through. Your 8-year-olds, your 10-year-olds, your 15-year-olds. They want to see that pathway to come through. And also, as fans, we want to see young guys that we can relate to coming through. We want to see, another goal coming through, or guys like that, another Duncan Ferguson. We want to see these people because you can relate to them. You see them coming through as kids, you see them developing, you see them, doing so well and being so successful for the club. For me, it's so important that we give them a pathway. So we've actually got a Zoom call tomorrow with Tony. Tony and I are just looking at the pathway of these ones coming through, because we're going to be bringing in a number in the summer. There's going to be a group of players that are about 18, 19, that are maybe just a wee bit too old for the 18s, but aren't quite ready to come into the first team. So we'll be looking at pathways for going out on loan, what level we think they'll go on loan to develop. It's important to go on loan to play. So whether that be going like Louis did junior, whether it be loan league, League 1, League 2, possibly Championship for a number of them as well, just to give them that pathway, so that it might be, some of them might break in the summer, some of them might be another year, maybe another 2 years before we can get them into the first team. But it's important we have that pathway and we have it mapped out for them, and then it's up to them to go and fulfil it.
I guess all things being equal, in a normal circumstance, there's still quite a lot of work involved in preparing that pathway. But both at that level and first team level, how do you go about preparing, and how do you and Tony go about working out the strategies and the plans for next season when we don't know at the moment where we're going to, what situation is going to be a week's time?
I know that's one of the difficulties we've got at the moment. Generally, when you're planning, you'll start your planning for the summer, in the January, probably before the January. You'll maybe pick one or two to come in the January with a view to then your strategy to then bring players in the summer. But we just have to look at it that the games are going to get played, which we hope they will be. There'll be a short window, I think, for the opportunity to rebuild the squad, and then it's ready to kick on. But to be honest, we're actually in a really good position, because we don't have that many players that are out of contract. You're looking at other teams and it's 15, 16, 17 players out of contract. So having to do that, rebuilding the teams quickly. We're although we need to recruit, don't need to recruit heavily. We've got guys that we believe that can play in the top flight if we get up. So it's not as much a job as big a job as a number of teams will be, but we still have to be preparing. We still have areas that we think we need to improve in, and we're going to target that.
I want to go back and just address, when you never answered the question earlier when it says what type of student you were, but the actual the master's course, I mean, as you say, apart from personal development, I imagine that's something that for your actual development of your career, it plays a big part. What was the thinking behind going on that course?
I think it's always about developing. We ask the players to develop every day. We ask them to, every time they come out of training, they should be trying to improve. They should be trying to be better than they were the day before. They watch the videos. We talk to them, we show them tactical stuff. So if we're asking them to have that growth mindset, then it's important that the staff have it as well and they show it as well. So I think from my own personal side of it, I've done the B licence, which you do 6 months or whatever, and then you go and do your A licence, which is over a year, and then I did the Pro, which I think is about 2 years. But I'd finished the Pro by the time I was like 34. And once you've done the Pro in football, that's basically it. There's nothing else to do. There's none of the courses. That's the top course that they do. And I just felt that I had to find something that was going to develop me, that was going to give me an opportunity again to come out of the bubble a wee bit, but something that I could use within the the coaching and managerial setup. So I had a good look at it. There's a few of the guys at the club that have been on the course, went through it, spoke to them, and I felt it was a good one for me to go on. So I've really enjoyed it. I've been there, I think we started September, so it'll be 8 months in or something, whatever it is. And it's been great. Some of the stuff I've already implemented with the players and the way you deal with things, but also a lot of it, the initial part is like, reflection on yourself and how you've dealt with people and how you would deal with the players and staff or whatever sport you're in, which has been really beneficial. And I think now we're going into organisational setup, how you set the business up, how you look at these side of things, which is very interesting as well, because it's something you probably don't look at definitely not as a player, but even as a manager, about how the club is set up, financially and commercially, all these kind of things. So it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. The only issue is you get quite a bit of homework and you've got assignments to put in as well. So I've got a couple of them coming up, so I'll use my time to get cracked into that.
So I'll try it for the third time. What type of student are you then?
What would I say? Like, initially, I found it quite hard, to be honest with you. I left school just I turned 16, so it's been a number of years since I've been in a classroom, and I didn't realise how tiring it is when you just sit there listening. You know, you start at 9 in the morning, you're finishing at 6 at night in the same room. You know, so you're there, you have your coffee, you have your lunch there, and you stay right through. And the first couple of get-togethers I found quite hard. You know, and you think to yourself, I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this, but gradually you get better. You know, and I think, to be fair, that the staff that run the course are great. You know, they understand that the majority of people that are on the course are working full time. They're in different sports, different backgrounds as well. There's very few from football, which I found quite refreshing. You know, you generally you go to pro license and everyone's doing the same thing. They're all talking about the same thing, so that was good. But the staff are great because they help you a lot. You understand that you've got commitments, you've got pressures, and you've got things that are happening in the background with your work. So they're very good at, you know, guiding you through what you need to do, and maybe at times you can get, you know, you can meander through and you maybe focus on something that's not really relevant to what we're doing. So they've been great on that side.
It's fascinating listening to you speaking about that. I think probably most managers, and you can correct me if you think this is wrong, but there's almost like a public persona that gets put on, you know, for the PR side almost of the club, and then there's a person behind it. Are you somebody that's quite protective of your personal life away from the park, or the person you are away from the football club?
I think when you're in with the players and the staff day to day, that's the real person, you know, that's in there. But I think at times when you're on the touchline, you're doing the media, then, you know, sometimes you have to change the way you act at times, you know, because you're portraying the club at times. So sometimes there's things that you feel that I want to say that, but you realise, no, I can't say that. Same in the touchline, where you're trying to influence people, or trying to influence players, coaches, referees, or these kind of things. So I think you'll find that a lot of managers, they have the football, and then they have something else, you know, whether it be family or you know, education, whatever they're doing, you know. So I do think, you know, sometimes you have to take yourself away from the football if you can. I've found that quite difficult at times, but it can be two different people, you know. And it's the way of football management, I think. And I speak to most people, I know that when you get to know them, they're different from what they look like in the media at times.
You touched on earlier as well, you know, the fact that in similar vein, you know, you have to get along with other managers, you have to get along with referees. That persona that you have to put on as a football manager, where does that, you know, does that come from experience of watching other managers? Do you pick up little traits and pieces from other managers, or is there just like a, you know, almost like a PR thing from a club point of view that you?
I think it's just, don't get me wrong, you're on a touchline, you're being yourself, but you're maybe being a different part of yourself, you know. You know, at times you can go on the touchline, you can be very vocal, very loud and aggressive, you know, but then to be honest, that's not me, and at the other side of it as well. So it's a wee bit of kind of split personality at times, you know. This is, when you're out there, this is the winner, this is what we're doing. And at times when you're maybe in the office with a player, speak to them, it's a different person, you know. But I think you have to be able to do that, you know. And football manager is probably one of the key skills in football manager, is being able to change between the two and judging what character needs to be implemented at that certain time to get the best out of the situation for the players. Have
you changed as a person from when you were a football player to now when you're a head coach, and as a person rather than a manager?
The hair's definitely getting thinner. You know, when I was at Dundee United as a player, it was nice and long. I'm getting closer and closer to you, Joe. But everyone changes. You know, if you're still doing the same things you were doing 20 years ago, then what's the point? You know, and I think, well, you know, you'll be the same. You know, you've changed over the years. You know, you always hope that you're changing for the better. You know, and I think that reflecting back on what you were doing maybe a couple of years ago is important to see where you are at the moment. So, you know, I'd hope that I've developed as a coach. You know, I've had a lot of experiences now. You know, so at Hearts, doing at MK Dons as well, managing in Europe or these kind of things and cups and that. So every experience for me, whether it's good or bad, you hope it's going to benefit you in the long run. And I feel where I am at the moment, I'm really happy. You know, I'm really pleased the way the team is. You know, the setup we've got at the club, and I think there's massive potential as well. You know, we we are not solely focused on just getting promoted. We're looking to get promoted and then push on from there, and take the club as far as we can.
On that, I mean, what do you generally feel? If everything goes to plan, we get promoted this year and we're into the Premiership next year. What's the genuine belief that what we can achieve once we get up to the Premiership?
Look, I feel that Dundee United are a top 6 team. That's where we should be. The players we've got as well. That's where we're aiming to get. But there's 10 teams who believe they're top 6 teams in Scotland. So we're one of them. So it's important that we have to prove we can get there. But that's where we think we can get there. We think, in time we can get into European football. We'd like to be getting to cup finals. We'd like to be winning cups. And challenging. So there's a long way to go. A long way to go at this club. And look, there's still loads and loads of work. We've always got to get back to the fact that we're a championship team at the moment, and that's what we are. So we have to prove that we're good enough to get out of the championship. Once we do that, we then believe we're a top 6 team. We have to prove we're good enough to get into the top 6. So there's a lot of, we want to do this and we want to do that, but we always have to prove it, because there's let's say 10, 12 teams that believe they're top 6 teams. Inverness believe they're a Premiership team. Dundee believe they're a Premiership team. Dunfermline believe they're a Premiership team. So you've got all these guys all these teams who believe they should be in it, the same boat as us. So we have to keep working hard, keep doing the right things, and get ourselves in there, and then set ourselves the next objective.
You touched on earlier about the togetherness and the whole United Together aspect, but in these times, it's very much a case of United apart as well, and everyone keeping together, and that includes the supporters. You mentioned earlier about the support they've given. I think the club has to look after the local community in times like this as well, but we also have to look towards the supporters to continue their magnificent support of us.
Yeah, the fans have been brilliant since day one, since they came in, and they've backed the team, and I think at this point it's important everyone helps each other. We keep talking about togetherness, but that's, the club helping the fans, but also the fans helping the club as well. We know the financially at the moment, it's difficult for everyone, difficult for all clubs, and we're no different from that. So I think it's important that, if the fans can, they can back as much as they can. The season tickets, if they go on sale, they can buy them early, would be great, where the strips go on or whatever it is. It's important that everyone sticks together. And to be honest, I think, the fans have been great. There's a couple of things happening in the background. Speaking to Tony, that people investing in the club, benefactors putting money in, because it's so important. This period we're in is unprecedented, and we just don't know what's going to happen. So it's so important that this work that everyone's put in together. The fans, the owner, the players, the staff, everyone associated with the club. We need to make sure we keep this, and we do that by helping each other out. And it might just be a phone call, it might be something else, but it's so important that we just do it. Everyone does their little bit to try and keep the ship going in the same direction.